Okay, hi, welcome everybody. This is Claire coming in with Jamie, and we're talking about the new moon in Gemini today. And we do this every month, but today's a special day. We wanted to dedicate this to the group of people gathered with John and Satya Love um, related to the Pachamama Alliance, from what we understand. And it's a perfect new moon to be connecting with people who are not with us physically, but who are with us in spirit. And we'll get a little bit more into that. But just to orient, my name is, again, Claire West, and I'm a psychotherapist in San Francisco. And I'm sitting here with Jamie Lieber, who's an acupuncturist in San Francisco. And we have worked together for we've worked together for 10, 15, no, we've worked together for more than that, 15.
Probably 15 years.
In terms of acupuncture, I've been her client. And the energy that was moving inside of my body when I was in Jamie's care was, I felt it so significantly that the only language I could use to express what was happening was my astrological language, which I happen to have learned in my early 20s. I'm now in my mid 50s. So Jamie didn't speak astrology at the time, but the words that I was using to describe the feeling of energy movement in my body on her acupuncture table, which was significant because of her talent as an acupuncturist, she began to sort of lean into what I was trying to express, and we found this common language. A lot of my astrology orientation is based on the elements, the 4 elements, and we all know what those are: fire, earth, air, and water. To sort of give you a quick run through of how I use those elements in astrology and psychotherapy and acupuncture and everything else, really, is that fire is the act of creation. Think about a sperm fertilizing an egg, or something happening in nature that is just a dynamic spark of life. That's fire. So we start with fire in ordering these 4 elements. Then we go to earth, and earth is basically that being, you, finding a body. That earth element is really your body. And then air, the third element, is communication, basically. And of course, I know the people who are working with the Loves and with Pachamama are following this. And communication, when we break down that word, is commune, or to be together. And then we'll get into that later, because today's new moon in Gemini is all about communication and communing. So anyway, the third element is air, and that's about communication. The fourth element is water, and that's really the soul, emotions, sort of where we go after the body and where we were before the body. And the ocean, of course, is the largest body of water we can really talk about in physical terms, but it represents the movement of the elemental movement that the moon is actually in charge of, or part of moving. So as we go through our new moon conversation this morning, keep in mind those elements: fire, earth, air, water. And I'm going to turn this over to Jamie in a minute to talk more about her expertise in moving energy through the body. However, I just wanted to invite everyone who might not know, or if you've known before and forgotten, the new moon is when there's quote unquote new moon in the sky. You don't see the moon, it's dark. But it's a great opportunity to take the moon really seriously, because of course it's still there, and of course it's still governing the tides of the ocean. And isn't that like our unconscious? It's always there, and if we could tap into it, what would we want to harness of what we cannot see. There's so much we can't see. When we really get with our existence, we know that there's a lot we can't see, and that's what the new moon represents. Every month we have an opportunity to set an intention. That's what the new moon is about, planting a seed in the darkness, setting an intention for everything we can't see, to communicate with what we don't necessarily see with our eyes, but we know is there. It's a beautiful time to really get real about the power of intention. And that's why Jamie and I, come together twice a month during the new moon and the full moon, when ritualistically you would then practice appreciating what you can see and what has come to fruition. Hopefully, based on what you set your intention on 2 weeks prior. So this is a rhythm that we're in, and we invite you all to be in over there in North Carolina, to begin the practice of every 2 weeks observing the moon inside of yourself, that which governs the emotional body within the physical body you've been given. It's a choice, and it's a way of communing with yourself. That's why Gemini is so powerful. I'll talk more about the straight up astrological orientation in a moment, but I'm going to turn it over to Jamie now to continue her, to express her side of this, which is a real partnership she and I have been engaged in for 15 years of practice. It really all started with Jamie's commitment to Chinese medicine and respecting the language of the body. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Claire. That was such a great explanation and orientation towards working with the moon and the cycles of the moon. And I come in as a Chinese medicine practitioner and working with the body. And as Claire mentioned, having that attunement and capacity to feel energy or something you can't see moving through the body is something of a way to come in deeper connection to all parts of you, the parts you can see and the parts that you can't see. And my job or my training is around this energy, similar to the energy of the galaxy, the energy of what is happening all around us, which I use the language of chi. And there's external chi and there's internal chi. And just like the breath, it moves. It's just a natural exchange of life that you can connect to your internal chi in your body, which is the work that I do. And then you can connect to the non-seen energy of chi outside of yourself that's happening all the time. And astrology, or Claire's really gifted way of bringing words to that energy, is what really brought me into a exciting collaboration with her, so that we can share this way of people tuning into that, into what I call chi, but it can be called anything that you can't see that is moving, that is happening.
Great. So I think that's a good explanation of how Jamie and I came together. And again, I was lying on our acupuncture table just trying to express what was happening to me. And after 15 years, she said, do you want to start recording? Because I was already practicing this new moon and full moon way of regulating my own chi, to use Jamie's word. The external chi and the internal chi, I think, feel better when they're in community. And again, let me orient everyone to the sign of Gemini. It is the first air sign. There are 12 signs in the zodiac, And we're not going to make this an astrological 101, but basically the first four signs in the zodiac correspond to the elements. Aries is fire, Taurus is earth, Gemini is air, and Cancer is water, okay? And then they repeat. That is, the elements repeat. There's another set of four, and then there's a third set of four. So Gemini is the first air sign. That's what I wanted to just bring your attention to. It's the first, and that means a lot in sort of, birth order, or the first time we, think of like cave paintings. It's communication of the first order, and it goes deep. It's when you think about the need to communicate, think of Gemini. It's the breath, really, like Jamie was saying, of a baby, let's say. People have sex, they create a baby inside a woman's body. That's fire, the sex body, the woman's body, and then the baby's born. And then breath is when that baby draws its first breath of the universe. And it's really incredible when you think about the power of that first breath. It's every epiphany you've ever had. It's every second chance a drug addict or a someone who's separated from community. It's the power of love, really. It's how is love communicated if not through the need for it? I mean, we find love in the universe where we find it, but we find it based on our need for it. And I really want to emphasize that Gemini, first of all, the Latin root of Gemini means twins, gemelli. And that represents two people, and also two perspectives. And it doesn't need to be language that we communicate with. Language comes much later, let's say, in a child's development. In the beginning, we know what each other needs because we feel it ourselves. It can make us think of Christ or any other teaching where the message is, and this is quoting the Jewish faith, that if we are not all of us free, we are none of us free. And that's this idea that everything I need, you need. And of course, things get confusing with people. And the Tower of Babel was written about in the Bible thousands of years ago. So we do get confused about the fight and the struggle for our needs to be met. But in this sign of Gemini, all we need to really meditate on and focus on is that our needs are the same. The twins represent two people who are communicating with each other. And that's another need that we have, which is to communicate with each other. Isolation doesn't work. Being an island unto oneself leads to dis-ease, and we regulate each other. So that's the sign of Gemini. But pulling back a bit to what we're doing here, it's the new moon. And when Jamie and I sit down to talk about the new moon or the full moon, I always like to begin with the moon itself. So the moon is this celestial body that's near the earth and regulates the oceans. And we are 70% water, so it's got to be regulating us too, whether we know it or not. And if we're open to that regulation, we are communing with the moon. I believe that the new moon in Gemini is a time to really get with the opportunity we have to surrender to what's already happening and to accept the rhythmic regulation of what the moon is offering us um, every month. That's why we call it a month, and because it's related to the moon. The best timing that we can follow is what nature is offering us, and I know that's what is going on with Pachamama and perhaps the week-long um, ritual that you all are doing in North Carolina. But when we start with the moon, we have to, first of all, get in touch with our own bodies, like Jamie was saying, and open up to what's inside of us, which is powerful and magnificent and connected to so many things that we can't see. And so we are not defined by our bodies, but our bodies are our key into everything, everything that's available in nature. So the moon is real. We can see it. It's up there. It's as real as planet Earth. It is as real as our bodies, and what it can do in communication with the oceans, in communication with our own energies that we're given to. We're like cups full of water, and we have to treat ourselves with respect and treat other people with respect and try and communicate our feelings, our connection to nature, and find a way to respectfully co-regulate with each other. And Gemini, when we bring that moon energy into Gemini, it's really an opportunity to express deep truths, to allow for deep truths, and to know that everyone holds deep truths inside themselves. And that communication, to me, is exactly what the new moon in Gemini offers us, an opportunity to set an intention, to really know, first of all, and give yourself permission to know your deep truth. And the last thing I want to say, because I meditate on this in a way before I record, what came up for me this month, in this day of, I've been thinking about it for the last 24, 36, 48 hours, is alternative. I really do believe that Gemini represents the idea of alternative, because truth isn't a monolithic idea. Truth is open for interpretation. And that's not flaky. It's knowing that everyone has their deep truth. And my intention, I guess the most direct way to explain my sense of alternative, is that my intention for this new moon in Gemini is to really breathe into my appreciation for alternative, whether it's my twin self, what she's trying to say to me, or what I'm trying to say to her about a different truth that I have, or accepting a different truth that she has, without any fight or conflict, but acceptance. Acceptance of alternative is such a beautiful wave to ride. We are stuck in a pattern of war and scarcity. Shout out to Lynn Twist. We are stuck, as we know, in our moment now in humanity, in a very grievous period of hate and lack of love. But there's an alternative to that. We all know it. And I just want to bring us back really closely to this idea, because it can become a runaway train and become something to argue about. And that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the kernel of truth that is alternative. There is always an alternative. A woman knows that because her body bleeds every month. Every month of her life for childbearing years, whether you bear a child or not, it is nature telling you that there's always another chance, there's always another perspective, there's always an alternative. And we have to stop thinking about alternative in terms of black and white. We're not talking about white as the alternative to black and vice versa. That's so limited. That is actually the opposite alternative. It's a trap. Alternative is ongoing, like nature. It's constant, it's consistent, it's beautiful, it's love. It's what we are not really living in right now. But I do believe that what you all are doing in North Carolina has to do with getting in tune with this beautiful, awesome, powerful, um, and totemic aspect of, well, I think of it as the divine feminine. I mean, the divine feminine is the alternative to what we're living right now in this warmongering, um, ice cap melting, um, headspace we're all in. The divine feminine is what I'm talking about when I talk about a constant flow of alternative. Think of the moon and what she's doing and all the oceans and all the tides and the way the moon can turn those tides, and she's just up there doing her thing, and that's the alternative.
Bravo. Brava. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Yeah, thank you for listening.